To Dust. Written by Kristen Mullings. 2025 copyright. Chapter 19, Bloodbind. The clearing was still, the silence too complete. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Before us, the spindle stood like a monument to a forgotten god, threaded bone, blood-hardened twine, and time-warped wood forming a cruel imitation of divinity. At its base, a well carved from pale stone, choked with moss. The place called to me. No, it pulled me, thread by thread, sinew by sinew. Kael hovered near the tree line, his arms crossed tight over his chest. I could feel his tension, see the way his shadow flickered despite no fire near us. He hadn't said a word since we stepped into the glade. He didn't have to. The bond between us thrummed with unspoken warning. You feel it too, I whispered, not turning around. Yes, he answered. And it's not just watching. It's waiting. I approached the spindle carefully. Every step felt heavier, like the forest itself resisted me. As though I were trespassing on a grave I was never meant to find. The silver thread etched into my skin pulsed in rhythm with something deeper, older. I knelt by the well, brushing away the moss. Beneath it, runes shimmered faintly, ancient and unfinished. Incomplete magic. I traced them with my fingers. The symbols twisted under my touch, not resisting, but responding. Recognizing. These weren't just my mother's marks. They were mine. This is where she made the pact, I said aloud. But the weave never completed. Kael stepped closer. Why not? I glanced back at him. Because I was the last strand. She cast the spell knowing I wasn't born yet. You're the living thread, Kael said softly. No. I'm the spindle's cost. Kael knelt beside me, his hand brushing mine. Then we unbind it. Together. The words sounded too simple. Nothing about this place felt simple. My breath caught as my fingers brushed the edge of the well, and a surge of memory ripped through me. Flashes of a woman cloaked in black, chanting under a blood-moon sky. My mother. Her hands shaking as she wove the thread through the bone frame. Her voice cracking. Her tears falling into the well. And then. A child. A cradle woven from spider silk and ash. A lullaby sung through clenched teeth. The sound of cutting. The vision vanished. I staggered, gasping. Kael caught me. What did you see? My birth wasn't natural. I was conjured. Not from love, but from need. Your mother summoned you. No, she wove me. He froze. Seren, you're not just a witch. I'm a spell. We sat in silence for a while. The sky had darkened to that eerie pre-storm purple, heavy clouds thick with magic rolling low. Kael hadn't moved from my side, but I felt him pull inward, like he was retreating into himself. What is it? I asked. He hesitated. Then, what if this breaks you? I stared at him. What if it doesn't? He looked down. His voice was quiet. Then help me reweave what was lost. We set up a small circle beside the well. I laid out the bones of the old spell, literally and figuratively. Pieces of thread, fragments of broken sigils, and the faint silver glimmer from the ritual that bound Kael and me. Kael offered his blood willingly this time, letting it drop into the well with a whisper in his old tongue. A royal tongue. One not spoken in this realm for eons. The well responded. It trembled. The air vibrated with a sound too low to be heard, felt only in the bones. I stepped into the circle and closed my eyes. I reached inward, not into my thoughts, but into the thread. Into the magic spun through my marrow and muscle. The moment I touched it, the world fell away. I stood in a place beyond time. A loom spun endlessly, threads of memory and magic moving across an invisible plane. And in its center, a figure cloaked in dusk, face hidden, hands busy. The weaver. Seren. It spoke in my voice. Or maybe I spoke in its. You are not here to break the bond. You are here to understand it. I want to reweave the spell. You cannot mend what was never broken. You are the weave. My hands trembled. Then why is it unraveling? The weaver lifted its face. It was my mother. But not the soft woman I remembered in flashes of lullabies and sorrow. This version was hollow-cheeked, eyes rimmed in thread, voice sharp as glass. Because the god beneath has found the knot. And it is pulling. I was yanked back into my body. Kael's hand gripped mine, grounding me. The circle around us flickered violently. Threads of magic writhed, snapping like brittle ropes. The ritual had gone wrong. No, it had been corrupted. Dark smoke rose from the well. Not smoke. Thread. Black, coarse thread unraveling from the depths and crawling up the spindle-like veins. I screamed. Kael pulled me back just as the ground cracked beneath the well. From it, a hand emerged, massive, skeletal, fingers wrapped in what looked like the remains of priests' robes. A voice boomed, not from above, but from within. You cannot mend the weave. You are the unraveling. The god beneath. Kael pushed me behind him, his aura flaring with infernal heat. Wings of shadow split the air, his body instinctively shifting into something more monstrous. His eyes glowed red, not with malice, but desperation. Run. I won't leave you. Run. I hesitated, but the surge of thread magic threw us apart like broken dolls. I hit the forest floor, branches cracking beneath me. When I looked up, Kael was facing the risen shade of the god. A half-formed creature made of forgotten faith and cursed thread. And Kael, he was losing. I stood. The thread glowed violently under my skin now. The spindle thrummed with impossible energy. And then, I remembered the weaver's words. You are not here to break the bond. You are here to understand it. This wasn't about unbinding. It was about becoming. I stepped toward the spindle and placed my hand on it. The threads responded, first with resistance, then with recognition. Memories surged through me. Of my mother. Her pain. Her sacrifice. Her loneliness. She hadn't woven me out of desperation. She'd woven me out of hope. I wasn't a mistake. I was a weapon. Magic exploded outward. The spindle shattered into a spiral of light and thread, wrapping around me like armor. My feet lifted off the ground. My body was weightless, like I'd become part of the weave. Kael looked up at me, blood running down the side of his face, or in his eyes. The god beneath shrieked. I raised my hand. Not to cast a spell. But to pull the thread. Reality bent. The god's form began to unravel. Its thread snapping, unspooling into the earth. But it wasn't destroyed. Just pushed back. Banished, temporarily. When I collapsed, Kael caught me. The world was quiet again. The well was empty. The spindle was gone. But the bond between us. Unchanged. If anything, it felt stronger. Kael held me close. What did you do? I met his gaze. I didn't sever the weave. I became it. His breath caught. And what now? I leaned into him, eyes heavy, magic still crackling in my veins. Now we find the final thread.
Chapter 20, Blood in the Loom. She collapsed in my arms, and for a moment, I feared I'd lost her. Her magic still sparked along her skin, like threads of lightning stitched into her veins. I pressed my hand to her cheek, then her throat. Her pulse fluttered beneath my fingertips, uneven, but present. I exhaled, unknowing I'd been holding my breath. The clearing around us was hushed, as if the forest feared breathing too loudly. Where the spindle once stood, only scorched earth remained. Whatever Seren had summoned, whatever force she had become, it had undone the god beneath, or at least, held it back. But I felt it. The pressure in the air. The way the ground refused to settle. We hadn't destroyed it. Only bought time. I carried Seren to the tree lean and laid her down beneath the shade of an ancient sycamore. Her hair fanned out like ink in water, her silver-threaded veins slowly dimming as she drifted into unconsciousness. I hated how fragile she looked. She wasn't. She'd faced things far worse than death, and had chosen to become something the gods feared. But even weapons need time to mend. I shifted forms, half shadow, half flesh, to draw a veil of protection around us. My wings, more tattered than usual, curled outward into a dome. Nothing would touch her. Not while I breathed. Night passed slowly. Her breathing evened out with the dawn. The sun never fully rose here, the canopy of the threaded wilds blocked most of its warmth. But a soft, muted light filtered through, enough to watch her chest rise and fall. I hadn't slept. I didn't trust this quiet. My hand rested on the hilt of my blade, not from fear, but habit. And when her eyes finally fluttered open, I was already beside her, my magic ready to cloak her again. She blinked at me. You stayed. Of course. Her hand reached up to touch my chest. You're still warm. I thought, maybe you'd burned out. Not yet, I said with a smile. You scared me. She closed her eyes again, only for a moment. I scared myself. We waited until she could stand. When she did, her movements were slow but sure. The silver thread along her arms remained, but it pulsed now with a new rhythm, calmer, in tune with the weave she'd awakened. We didn't speak much. Words felt too thin, too small for what had happened. Instead, we followed the pull. A current neither of us understood, but both felt. The bond between us had changed. It was no longer just a lifeline or curse. It was a guide, a compass stringing us towards something deeper, older, final. We traveled for days. Through hollowed forests where trees bled sap thick as tar. Across bone bridges suspended over dead rivers. Into caves lined with the names of forgotten witches, their curses still etched into the stone. Seren began to dream. Each night, she woke breathless. Eyes shining with visions she couldn't explain. She spoke of spindles spun from moonlight, of wolves made of fog, of a tower beneath the earth wrapped in vines that sang. One word repeated itself over and over in her sleep. Nameris. On the fifth night, I finally asked her. Who is Nameris? She stared into the campfire, lips pale. Not who. Where? Her eyes met mine. It's where the last thread lies. The heart of the loom. I stiffened. The loom wasn't a place. It was a myth, a story whispered by dying priests, a nursery rhyme for cursed children. She read the disbelief on my face. I know it sounds impossible. But I saw it. I was it. Tell me. She hesitated. Then spoke, her voice quiet. It's not made of cloth or string. The loom is alive. A pulsing mass of memory, blood, and intention. Every spell, every pact, every piece of magic woven since the dawn of our world, it all knots there. And at the center of it is Nameris. A sanctuary. A prison. Maybe both. I leaned forward. And the final thread? It was buried there. Not by my mother. But by something older. The thread she tried to reach, the one I am, was never the end. I'm only the key. The fire snapped. Seren added, the god beneath pulled it loose. But it didn't create it. It only found it. We have to rebind the thread before it unravels the loom entirely. And if we fail? She looked at me, her eyes unwavering. Then magic dies. We reached the edge of Nameris on the seventh night. Not that there was a sign. No gates. No path. Only a sudden stillness. The trees here grew in spirals, their bark twisted into runes we couldn't read. The air was too clean. Too clear. Like we'd stepped into a memory not meant for us. Seren stepped forward first. Each footfall echoed like a bell toll. The bond between us pulled tight. My skin itched. My shadow whispered lies. But I followed. The forest opened into a glade. No wind. No sound. Just a lone tower made of black stone and woven glass, rising like a needle toward a blood-colored sky. The spindle tower, she whispered. Her eyes glazed. This is where the loom touches the world. Inside, the air shimmered. The walls weren't walls at all. They shifted as we walked. One moment stone, the next moment scenes from the past. I saw a young Seren playing in a candlelit chamber. A woman with red hair and tired eyes, her mother, spinning silver thread into a basin. Seren reached for the vision. It vanished. It remembers you, I said. She nodded. And it remembers you. I frowned. The vision changed. My father, the demon king, loomed in the darkness. His voice like oil, thick and suffocating. He spoke to a younger me, the moment I made the pact. My soul split in his hand like parchment. My screams swallowed by shadow. Seren gripped my hand. It's testing us. Or warning us, I muttered. We climbed. Each step warped time. At one point, I was a child. The next, an old man. Seren aged and unaged beside me. Her silver thread flickered wildly. When we reached the top, there was no door. Only a pool. The water was black. Not like ink. But like space. Endless. Floating within it, a single thread. It shone red gold. It pulsed with life. The final thread, she breathed. I reached for it. But the moment my fingers touched the surface, the tower shook. A roar echoed through the loom. The god beneath had found us. The water exploded upward. From it rose a creature made of thread, blood, and fire. No face. No voice. Only hunger. I stepped in front of her, blades drawn. But Seren didn't move. She whispered, "It wants me to bind it." I shouted, "It will kill you." She shook her head. "Not if I offer more." And before I could stop her, she stepped into the pool. Into the loom and vanished. I screamed her name. The thread, the creature, the tower, all collapsed inward. I fell to my knees, the world turned to ash. Then, behind me. A voice. Kael. I turned and Seren stood there. Her eyes glowed. Her veins burned silver gold. In her hand, the final thread, woven not from magic or blood, but memory. She smiled. I remember everything. And then the loom sang.
Chapter 21, Awakening. The first thing I felt was warmth. Not the heat of a fire, nor the golden warmth of sunlight. This warmth was deeper. Older. Like breath exhaled from the mouth of the world itself, cradling me. I opened my eyes slowly. The loom was gone. Or rather, I was no longer inside it, but its essence still wrapped around me, unseen threads brushing my skin, whispering against my thoughts. My body hummed with quiet, crackling power. The silver glyphs on my arms now stretched over my collarbone and throat like vines. I could feel the world, its fraying edges, its tangled fates. And I could feel him. Kael. He was close, but in pain. Panic, even. I sat up and found myself at the edge of the glade, no longer within the woven temple of the Thread Mother, but just outside it, on the moss-strewn floor. The sky had darkened to a bruised violet, stars winking through torn clouds. And Kael knelt beside me. He didn't speak at first. Just stared, wide-eyed, as if I were some vision from a fever dream. There were scratches on his cheek, soot smudged along his jaw. His hair was wild, his cloak half torn. He looked like he'd been through war. "Seren," he breathed, voice thick. "I thought. You thought I was gone." He nodded. And then, suddenly, sharply, he pulled me into a fierce embrace, burying his face into my shoulder. I held him. I didn't disappear, I whispered into his ear. I just crossed over. Kael pulled back slowly, searching my face. "You've changed. Something's different. I know things now." My voice trembled. I felt the threads. I heard them. The loom isn't just a source of power. It's a memory. A living archive of everything that ever was. His brow furrowed. "And what did it show you?" "Truths. About my mother. About you. About the god beneath. Kael's jaw clenched. Tell me. I hesitated. Then. The god beneath wasn't always a god. Kael's eyes darkened. What do you mean? I stood slowly, the threads along my arms glowing faintly. It was once a weaver. Like me. A thread witch who delved too deep, tried to bind too many fates, until the threads snapped. The backlash tore them apart, unraveled their body, mind, and soul. What remained was raw will. Hunger. An echo turned monstrous. Kael exhaled sharply. And now it wants you. I nodded. Because I'm doing what it couldn't. I'm weaving a new thread, not stealing old ones. He looked at me with a mixture of awe and sorrow. Seren, this thing, this being, if it's born from magic itself, how do we fight it? We don't. Kael stiffened. Then what? We heal it. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I saw it, I said. The core of it, buried beneath all the rot. A thread. Frayed, but intact. If I can find the right tether, if I can rebind it. That's madness. It's the only way to stop it without dooming everything connected to the weave. If we kill it, we tear a hole in the loom so wide nothing will mend it. Kael took a step back, raking a hand through his hair. So you'll sacrifice yourself instead? No, I said softly. I'll offer it a choice. He stared at me, then finally said, What did the loom show you about me? I stepped forward, took his hand. That you are not the monster you were told you were. That your name, Coven, was a crown, but Kael is your truth. You chose it. You earned it. His eyes filled with unshared emotion. And my pact. I nodded. Still binding. But not unbreakable. There's something else within it. A loophole. What kind? I couldn't see yet. The loom hid it. It said it's not my thread to unravel. Kael let out a slow breath. Then I'll find it. The air shifted again, trembling with tension. I looked toward the eastern sky. A black mark stretched across the horizon, a tear forming in the veil. It's moving faster now, I whispered. It's begun its descent. Kael moved to my side, his shoulder brushing mine. Then we don't have time. No, I agreed. We have fate. That night, we made camp near the threshold of the forest. I couldn't sleep. My veins itched with magic. I spent hours mapping the sky, tracing the old constellations. Kael sat nearby, sharpening the ritual blade. He was quiet, more so than usual. There was a new edge to him, protective, but wary. Not of me. Of what I might become. Seren, he said quietly, not looking up. When this is over, if you survive it, what will you do? I looked at him, then up at the sky. I don't know, I said. I don't think I can go back to being a simple hedge witch, or hiding in shadows. I've seen too much. Felt too much. I think I'll find others like me. Start something new. A circle that weaves, not just watches. Kael nodded. And if you need help? I smiled. I'll know who to call. We sat in companionable silence. The threads between us no longer uncertain or frayed. They pulsed steady. Trusted. But just before dawn, Kael stiffened. Do you hear that? He asked. I paused. Listened. Whispers. From the woods. They weren't malevolent, but they were urgent. Calling. I stood quickly, grabbing the vial of dream root and my spell satchel. Kael rose beside me. What is it? I think someone's trying to reach us. From the loom. But you left it. No, I said. I carry it now. I placed my palm against a nearby tree. The bark shimmered, and a thread, fine and luminous, spilled from beneath my fingers, snaking into the woods. I followed it. Kael didn't hesitate. We reached a glade I didn't recognize. In the center stood a figure cloaked in twilight threads, their face veiled, their hands outstretched. Thread Mother. But this wasn't the same projection I'd met in the loom. This was her echo, her final message. Seren, she spoke, voice like 1,000 whispered lullabies. You have chosen a path that few have survived. The god beneath awakens. The weave frays. And your thread, though strong, is not immune. I know. Then take this. She placed something into my hands. A spindle, carved from bone and gold, humming with power. This will guide you to the god's core. But beware. To use it, you must unravel something you love. My heart skipped. Kael. The vision vanished. I stood in the empty glade, the spindle now in my hand. Kael came to my side, his expression unreadable. What did she give you? A choice, I whispered. And a cost. He looked down at the spindle. Then we'll find a way around it. Together. I nodded. But the dread coiled in my stomach said otherwise. Some threads could only be severed by pain. And mine was nearing its snapping point.